Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
You're pointing at the Fabulous Five out in the newsroom who are looking at us wondering who we're pointing at.
Yeah, there's a couple people like, what's he doing out there?
Yeah. Well, we're back. We're back in the KOMO News World Headquarter Podcast Studios.
I like that.
Yeah.
Compliments to producer Bill for building this thing.
Yes. All Bill all the time. He's helping us here in the studio on another episode. I've lost track. We've had so much to talk about on this show.
36.
36, according to Bill.
That's what he's here for, man.
Yeah, well, we're talking about everything off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. It's what we do. And this episode, we're going to talk a lot about the buildings. We're inside the arena or inside the buildings. Memorial Stadium, big news on Memorial Stadium at Seattle Center. And also, we're going to talk at length about the Tacoma Dome. How does the Tacoma Dome fit in to Western Washington with all the venues right now, like Climate Pledge Arena, like Kent, like Everett? How does Tacoma now fit into this piece? What piece of the puzzle is it for hosting live sporting events? We are going to talk with Adam Cook, who is the Tacoma Dome director, the director really for the city of Tacoma of venues. That's all coming up in a bit, but what we like to do every week on this show, Inside the Arena, talk about what is good, what is bad, off the court, off the ice, off the field of play, four corners. Niko, what's good?
Yeah, I'm going to start with one of my favorite things about the Mariners this week, and that would have to be the great Rick Riz. Everybody who knows Rick Riz loves Rick Riz, and so many Mariners fans out there already know that he has Rick's Toys for Kids around the holiday season, giving toys and gifts to kids in need, and certainly with an emphasis on the homeless population, helping out a kid who would obviously maybe not even enjoy a holiday season, certainly enjoying it a lot more. He actually told a great story to me on Saturday about this before I get to the point of the positive corner here. He said that once there was a 20-year-old young man that went up to him and was like, hey, when I was 5 years old, your Rick's Toys for Kids gave me a football, and I played with that every day for about 6 years, and I just want to say you made my Christmas that year. And Rick, in his pure a heart that he carries on his sleeve, he was just like, that was one of those highlights of his career, and he's seen a lot of them in 40-plus years, right? So why is this a positive corner right now? Because now he has launched what's called the Rick's Locker. And what it is, it's trying to gather baseball equipment for underserved kids, to give them an opportunity to play Little League, to just play baseball. It's not like, basketball, you just get a ball and you go out there and play. You need a glove, you need a bat, you need balls, you need a tee, whatever it might be. And so he got together at the Dick's Sporting Goods in Issaquah, and about 40 kids got free gear. Ryan Roland Smith was there too. Just a cool thing to see Rick. The guy doesn't have anything else to prove to Seattle yet. He continues to give back every single opportunity that he gets. In Rick's Locker, go ahead and look it up. And we have a story on our website, KOMOnews.com, about that if you want more information. Really cool scene, though.
And Rick is a genuine guy. He's a friggin' Seattle treasure at this point with the Seattle Mariners. Doing great work. I'll say what's good this week is also in the baseball world at the AAA level, the Tacoma Rainiers, you know this, have a new play-by-play announcer, Riley Pay, who comes to Tacoma from the Portland Sea Dogs, and she's making a bit of history. Yes, she is making a bit of history as the first female announcer at the AAA level. There were 250 applicants, according to the Tacoma Rainiers and Aaron Artman down there. So it's going to be interesting after all these years of Mike Curto, Riley Pay. I know you talked to her, and she's going to be now the play-by-play announcer at Tacoma. Yeah,
it was a really great conversation. We're going to have her on the show at a future date, probably in March as we're gearing up for the Rainiers season. But just somebody who eats, sleeps, and breathes baseball, loves the game, and that energy shows up on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to hear how it shows up on the radio call for the Rainiers this spring. Excellent hire. If you can Google some of her work with the Portland Sea Dogs out in Maine, Portland, Maine, of course, and it shines through. She's going to be a lot of fun. You don't exactly replace a legend like Mike Curto, right? But this is a really cool step forward. And yes, the history is special, but she's really damn good at what she does, and I can't wait to hear her on the airwaves.
So what don't you like this week as we round second, head to third?
You know what? And this is going to be national. I like to keep things Seattle-centric, but I don't like this crazy Luka and Anthony Davis trade for one reason. It's very clearly and transparently the Mavericks not wanting to pay the guy. And it's a guy that brought them to the finals. It's a guy that's like the face of their franchise. All these lines about, well, defense wins championships, and that's why we have Anthony Davis. Well, that's all. They just didn't want to pay him $345 million. And of all teams to trade him to, it goes to the Lakers, who as if they need more help with LeBron and all the money they can go get the next free agent whenever LeBron retires. There's just so much about it. I mean, blockbuster trade, maybe the most impactful ever. That's an argument to be made there. But the single factor that's a negative corner, and it is so transparently just an opportunity, or an attempt rather, to not pay a superstar what he's due.
For the people who are uneducated, he might lose more than $100 million out of that trade.
Exactly, because he started with Dallas, so he was eligible for the Supermax, which would have paid him 5 years, $345 million. And now because he's on another team, that big contract that he'll sign next year, like you said, about $120 million less total. And it's a little bit of money.
And we're going to talk more about that tease on the Supersonic Minute here in just a second. The other thing I would say that's bad, the Mariners made a signing. It's a signing of a guy that they had last year who didn't do too well, Jorge Polanco. He will be back playing third base, not second. That is perhaps their biggest free agent signing now in the offseason as they head into spring training. And his signing was met with a collective groan from all sorts of Mariners fans, especially online, that this is it. This is going to be their big bat. This is what they're going to go in to 2025 with. I would say the flip side of that is the Mariners also had a nice review in The Athletic of their farm system. They were ranked number 1 overall in all of Major League Baseball. We don't know quite what Jerry DiPoto and his crew are thinking of right now, but perhaps they are waiting on that farm system, maybe waiting one more year before bringing up some of the hot prospects that can play the infield. But Jorge Polanco, at least at this point, not getting a lot of Mariners fans excited.
I'm going to talk about this in the final buzzer, but it is clear as Jerry DiPoto met with local reporters earlier this week that they're making a really calculated but really, really big gamble here. That if it pays off, everybody's happy. If it doesn't, ownership might say, okay, what's the definition of insanity here? So we'll talk more about that in the final buzzer, but, they're very much relying on the health of Polanco rebounding and Julio rebounding and hoping that those last 34 games of Dan and Edgar and Arozarena and Robles is what we'll see for 162 plus this year. There's logic to it, but it's a big gamble at a big moment.
Prospects are prospects until they aren't prospects. Something like that. Okay, hey, Supersonic Minute, let's do it. As we continue to talk about... I just love the horn because they'll play that eventually at a future Sonics game, right? So we like to update people every week on what's going on with the potential return of the Sonics, where the NBA is standing on expansion. And there was a little bit of news this week, and it's what Niko already talked about as well that kind of ties into all of this. So Brian Windhorst from ESPN, a longtime NBA writer, was asked about NBA Europe expansion. That has been a story that we've talked about here, touched on as well, and how that may impact expansion. He was asked whether NBA Europe expansion would impact Vegas and Seattle. He says, in theory, nothing. That would not impact the idea of expansion here domestically, but also made the point, Brian Windhorst did, that we've made on this show, that right now everything seems to be held up by the sale of the Boston Celtics, and that is a process that is moving, in his words, slowly, and expansion isn't moving at all right now because of that Celtics situation. There is some talk that the Boston Celtics could go for $6 billion. That would set the valuation for an expansion franchise in Seattle and Las Vegas. And speaking of Las Vegas, and this is where we go full circle back to the Dallas conversation. I don't know if you saw this. It's actually kind of comical in a way. The theory on Reddit that Luka was traded because the owners of the Dallas Mavericks are trying to sink the franchise because they want to build a new arena with a casino. Miriam Adelson and the Adelson family, that they own the Sands Hotel Corporation in Las Vegas.
That's right.
and they would like to build a casino resort in Dallas, have been rebuffed on that. So the theory as it goes on Reddit is that Luka was traded so people lose interest in the Mavericks, and eventually that team can be moved to Las Vegas and a new casino resort in Las Vegas. How's that for some conspiracy theories on Reddit?
Well, like you take 2 seconds into it and it doesn't make any sense. Like,
you think the NBA is going to want to leave Dallas?
no, they're not going to leave. Stop. Man, Reddit wormholes can be a dangerous place, can't they?
Yes, they can. Hey, good news in Seattle, at least in the last week, when it comes to Memorial Stadium. We like to talk about this stuff that's going on off the field, off the court, off the ice. I just like saying that repeatedly, too. $30 million in private money has now been allocated to the reconstruction and construction of a brand new Memorial Stadium at Seattle Center. That is a building right now that's been there since 1947, was built to honor World War II era soldiers, kids that were in the Seattle School District that lost their lives in World War II. The wall is going to be preserved as it is right now, but this was a big step because the Seattle School District, the city of Seattle, the state, they've all allocated funds for a new building, and now this private money came forward. Wafed Bank, Amazon, the Ballmers, the Schultz family, the Gates family, among the donors, the folks that have stepped forward, philanthropists, local philanthropists, to complete the financing for this project with now a 2025 groundbreaking scheduled with a 2027 opening. And KOMO News was invited to the big kickoff event for this with all the donors in one place. And we talked with Seattle School Superintendent Brent Jones, Kraken owner Samantha Holloway, Seattle Center Director Marshall Foster about what this money means now for the big picture for the project. Here's what they had to say.
Yep.
Okay, Superintendent, what does the private money mean in terms of advancing this project?
Wow, we couldn't have done all this. We couldn't have had this broad vision without the additional private money. We had the initial $66 million that the city provided us, city as in the voters and the residents. With this extra money, it's going to allow us to have frankly, a world-class facility. So it's really took us over the top.
Do you anticipate any hiccups going forward in terms of breaking ground?
I think there'll be hiccups, but just hiccups. I don't think there's any real roadblocks for us moving forward. There's a bunch of infrastructure things that we really need to pay attention to, from sewage to infrastructure lighting and things like that. We're going to get through that. But in terms of the partnership, it's enduring, and I feel really confident that we're going to move forward.
What is your vision for this building? Because there are people who ask, hey, there's a bunch of private money coming in. How's that going to work with a private operator? It's still a Seattle Public Schools building. What's your vision for all this?
So our vision at Seattle Public Schools has been matched by the private money that's coming forward. Everyone wants to make sure that our students have tremendous access to a world-class sports facility and technology and some job training opportunities. So my vision is that it's going to be more than just an athletic facility, but a facility that our students can come to and advance in their careers, learn a little more about themselves. So when they're time to be college and career ready, they've had a real viable experience.
Superintendent, thank you.
Thank you.
Why is this project important for you?
So preservation and community, especially here in Seattle, have always been really important to me and to my family. And this is truly a once-in-a-lifetime project, and we're privileged to be a part of it.
What do you see for the future of Memorial Stadium now that this private money has been put into the project?
It's really about the students, right, and the broader, our organization as well as many people. Todd Lightwicki had a great vision of what Memorial Stadium could be to really honor the students that did lose their lives, and what it could be to bring community together for sports, for the arts, for the students, and really elevate what was there in a place that's no longer safe really for the kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why is this important for Seattle Center?
This project unlocks the potential of Seattle Center in a whole bunch of important ways. I mean, fundamentally, the campus connects to Memorial Stadium. We can use it for great events. We can use it for music. A lot of Seattleites remember great concerts there as part of Bumbershoot, other events. And fundamentally, we have a great partnership with the school district. What moves me is when I see students and families having a graduation and they don't have a great place to celebrate as a family. We want the fountain the great green spaces at the heart of campus to be that place. So we couldn't be more excited. This is going to change Seattle Center in very important ways.
Do you anticipate any sort of hiccups? I mean, there's a question of a couple of things need to be signed, but now that the private financing's in place, do you anticipate any hiccups?
We have to get through the school board, we have to go to the city council, but what I've heard is a lot of support. What's so powerful about this is we have a partnership. We have $30 million of private philanthropy. We have the city and the school district doing their part as government. We have a nonprofit, community-driven project. This is not a commercial project. This has students at its heart. For me, there's very little to argue with in this. I think this is going to be very well supported.
Marshall Foster not leading the jazz band there in the background, by the way. But what is interesting as well is Memorial Stadium, it will be looking to host high school events. The Tacoma Dome is right now hosting high school events. And we had a chance to talk to Adam Cook, who is the director of venues for the city of Tacoma. You will hear from him right after this quick break.
Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook, is your place for a true in-game betting experience. Download the Snoqualmie Casino Sportsbook app to get in on the action while watching your favorite games at Snoqualmie Casino. Details at snowcasino.com. Seattle's closest sportsbook, Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
All right, Adam, thank you for doing this. The Tacoma Dome is a place that holds a special place in my heart as a guy who was raised in Pierce County, has been around since 1983. I think people tend to forget it. It has outlived substantially the King Dome in Seattle. What do you think of the Tacoma Dome from where you sit and its place in the region right now as a large venue?
I mean, the Tacoma Dome is, you sort of touched on it there, the legacy and the history, it's nothing short of iconic for our industry as a whole and even North America. You talk about it's outlived so many other venues, and as you talk about arenas today and large-scale venues today, their shelf life is anywhere from 10 to 20 years, and we just celebrated the Dome's 40th anniversary. That puts us in the rarefied air of Madison Square Garden, the O2 in London. Absolutely phenomenal. The people who have crossed the stage at the Dome, just amazing. And so there's always going to be a place for the Dome in the Northwest, in the Puget Sound region. We provide something that some of those other buildings don't necessarily have the ability to, and a lot of that size and scope of what we can do. We're larger. We have great location. It's a good experience for everybody all around.
Yeah, just to rattle it off, I mean, I think some people know the Sonics played there a full season, but I've seen numerous Sonics games, NBA games at Tacoma Dome over time. The NHL has played there. If you've lived in the area for any amount of time, you know the Tacoma Stars, Major Indoor Soccer League, Foot Thunder, those teams, football. I've seen softball there, soccer. Numerous concerts. It seems like it has hosted it all over time. But to your point, the shelf life for some of these buildings that are being constructed nowadays is not very long. The Tacoma Dome did go through a significant renovation several years ago. What did you do with the renovation there? What changed within the Tacoma Dome during that big renovation a few years ago?
Yeah, so back in 2018, we put about $30 million into the building, and we've been consistently putting more in ever since then. But back with the big renovation, it was focused on a few key areas. First and foremost, the seating bowl. We completely adapted our lower seating sections to create a little bit more space, a little bit more capacity, and a little bit easier transition for our team as events come and go so that we could go back to back with a lot of events. Also opened up our floor space significantly so that we had a lot of room there. We put a lot of focus on our artists and our guest experience. So our backstage area especially, we built a whole new artist quarters to welcome those who come in for every event, give them a nice, comfortable place that feels a little bit more like home and a little easier than just the old hockey locker room or basketball locker room for them to come into. We did some updates on our restrooms and our facilities, especially on the lower level, to create a better experience there. We've looked at our concessions. We've put a lot of money into our lighting systems. The exterior of the building got a whole new siding system. And so really looking at the long-term longevity of it through that as well.
Wasn't there some staging done through kind of the apparatus on the roof in terms of being able to host certain events, or is that the lighting and
Yep. So most recently was the lighting. Several years ago, before this last major renovation, we did install a full rigging grid, which really allows us to do almost any type of show. And we're actually in the process right now of looking to even upgrade that. As shows get bigger and bolder, especially the type of shows that can fit in the dome, the Pinks, the Zach Bryans of the world. Their production is getting much more expansive. And so we're really looking at how do we keep up with them to make sure we're giving them a world-class experience when they come to town.
The WIAA has been a big client over the years, or big tenant, I should say, with numerous state championships there. But football is no longer there, but you still have all of these other events. How important is the relationship with the WIAA?
Our connection with the WIA is huge. It's incredibly important, not just to us as the Dome, but to the Tacoma community and the greater Pierce County region. Football, it made sense for that to start transitioning and looking at some other venues. My hope is, personally, we would love to have them back, but I think UW is a great home for them right now. As Memorial Stadium opens up north, that may become a home for them. So really interested to see where that goes. We're always happy to have them back, but where we excel are those indoor sports. And so the basketball state championships, the wrestling state championships have been with us for many, many years, and really excited that we actually confirmed in their first full formal RFP that we will be their host for the next 4 years as well, from 2025 through 2028. Made some commitments, and that was a partnership not just of the Dome, but the Dome, Visit Tacoma, Pierce County as a whole, the Tacoma Public Schools, Pierce County school districts across the board. So really expanding that as a package deal. And it includes not just the Dome events, but soccer and track and field as well will remain in Pierce County. So we're very excited to have that. They are a strong partner. They bring huge amounts of participants every year. They bring huge economic impact every year to this region. So very important for us.
Yeah, you may have just have stolen my question, but in terms of filling up hotel rooms, I mean, having those state championships there, I think would have to fill up a lot of those rooms.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do roughly $10 to $10.5 million in economic impact a year through those events. There's tens of thousands of athletes coming through the market in the region. So just about any hotel room, and not just Tacoma, but Pierce County as a whole, gets pretty packed during those events. It's great for us.
You just mentioned Husky Stadium and Memorial Stadium and the planned renovation of Memorial Stadium, and it brings up the question, when the Tacoma Dome opened back in 1983, and it's hard to believe that it was 1983, the marketplace was different. There was the King Dome, there was the old Seattle Center Coliseum, later Key Arena. Now there is Climate Pledge Arena. Now there's an arena in Kent. Now there's an arena in Everett. There's large venues, outdoor venues. What has that competition meant for Tacoma in trying to attract dates and stay competitive in what has been a changing marketplace over the last 40 plus years now?
The market has definitely adapted around us as new venues have come online, but we've adapted with it. And, obviously Key Arena existed before now Climate Pledge. We've had some great years. We've had some off years over the last 40 plus now. I can tell you, we had a fantastic 2024. We did 108 unique events with almost 200 individual event days attached to that. So, almost 2/3 of our calendar is full every year still. We welcomed almost 600,000 people through the Tacoma Dome. So, the market has enough capacity right now, we believe, to support all of us. And all of us have our specific unique niches that we can fill. For the Dome, ours is size and capacity. Events that, I mentioned Zach Bryan earlier. Zach did almost 43,000 people through our doors over the course of 2 nights. He had the highest grossing event ever in the Dome's history, probably one of the highest grossing on its tour. We've hosted some events that are actually on their stadium route. When Elton John came through for his second farewell trip through Tacoma, it was actually his stadium tour. And because of our size and capacity, we can host events like that. So we fill a larger niche in the market at a fraction of the cost of some of our downtown competitors and friends. Climate Pledge does great with the sporting events. They are fantastic for, obviously, the hockey, and they just hosted women's professional hockey for the first time. We're thrilled to hopefully see them get an NBA team back in a little while. They are fantastic for that. And then Kent, Everett, some of those smaller venues do great with the mid-size shows. So we think there's a lot of capacity in this market for everybody.
Because you make the argument that you can get more people in the building for a concert, that it's that next level up from, say, Climate Pledge Arena and, say, less than Lumen Field.
Exactly. Yeah, weekend capacity is about 22,000 at our maximum, significantly more than any of the others in the local market. Honestly, significantly more than almost any indoor venue in the country, except for the football domes.
So the concert business, despite the new shiny object up the road up I-5 at Climate Pledge, you still think you're doing robust business there with the Zach Bryans and others.
We absolutely are. We're doing great business with that. We have found some new niches that work really well in our market. Last year, we hosted 4 K-pop shows, many of which actually started their tours in Tacoma for the rest of the country. And those are events that are doing maybe 10 to 12 dates across North America as a total. So it's great for them to start here, call Tacoma home, and then branch out. Really good business there. We have a great business with the electronic dance market. The dance music events, we can combine our floor, open up our floor entirely to create just over 15,000 capacity. And so that gives them a whole new festival experience, but with an indoor capability that makes it really attractive for a lot of those events. So we have our niches that work really well for us, just like Climate Pledge, Kent, or Everett have their niches.
And you also do a fair amount of shows, trade shows, the Home and Garden Show. I know I've been there. I was there last year. On behalf of KOMO, shaking hands and signing autographs. You do a fair amount of those kind of shows as well that you can't necessarily do at Climate Pledge Arena.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. With that floor capacity that we can do, plus the addition of our exhibition hall, which is right next door and linked to the building, our addition of the parking lots for some of the events, things like the Home and Garden Show, the RV show, all of these do incredibly well down here. We do the holiday food and gift every October, November area. So we can do a lot of those that other areas outside of Lumen Field really can't. And it helps give an additional market in the South Sound that some of those vendors may not get otherwise. So that's really, while it's not a core piece of our business, it is a stable piece that many of those shows have been with us for 40 years now. And we love hosting them. We are fully independent. So we are all City of Tacoma employees, and our booking director is absolutely phenomenal at his job. So he works fully independently. We do have a coalition that we belong to that is sort of a partnership of independent venues across the country. They sometimes will help us with some ideas of what's touring or what's available out there, or bring us an event that may be looking to do a block booking. But by and large, we are fully independent. So we operate on our own for that. And our team does, I just can't preach enough how wonderful a job they do in getting this building booked, and in all of the work they do to keep it looking as young as it does at 42.
And that is a rarity with so many of these entertainment companies like AEG and OVG and when you start talking about Live Nation and Ticketmaster, how all of these things are booked and booked in blocks and booked through venues. The fact that you're doing it independently says something about the Tacoma Dome as well.
It does. And the community. This community turns out to support its building. And that's always sort of been our focus, is how can we support and how do we get them out to the building and the events that we have. And it goes back to, OVG does great work up at Climate Pledge. AEG does some great work at venues across the region. All of them are fantastic for what they do, but ultimately all of them also have that private business bottom line mentality to some degree. Whereas while we are an enterprise fund for the city, so we're responsible for our profitability, which is successful each year, we approach everything with the baseline of what's good for the city of Tacoma and its community and its residents. And so that gives us a little more leeway there that we really enjoy as we go through our day-to-day.
That was awesome.
There you go, Tacoma Dome. I always like to talk about the Foot Thunder back in the day with the Tacoma Stars and Major Indoor Soccer League, that league that was there between the NASL and now with the MLS. It was a big darn deal the Tacoma Dome sold out with more than 20,000 fans.
That's so cool. And then that league, I think, exists in other parts of the country these days. Yeah,
Yes.
it's a cool, it's a fun little thing.
It is a fun little thing. You know what else is a fun little thing?
Have at it.
It's that buzzer.
Well, first of all, I want to start with I love this episode because we always talk about why we started this show and what made this show. And number one with the bullet point was the latest on the Sonics, what we bring every week with the Supersonics Minute. But it's also the dynamic you and I are able to bring our we're so gracious for you audience, whether that's via podcast or KOMO News YouTube page, in that you're in the boardrooms, you're in these meetings with these facilities and talking to folks at the Tacoma Dome. I'm in the locker rooms talking with the coaches, and we were able to have obviously Jimmy Rogers with both of us, or Jedfish the week before that. So we're kind of hitting at all of our points here, and I hope everybody has enjoyed that in recent weeks. But I want to do my final buzzer on the Mariners. Here's the thing. We talked about this a minute ago. There's only one. This thing's going to go one of two ways. To judge it here in February, listen, let me preface this for a second here. This isn't a rant from me. It's just a kind of a rant. A lot of fans are ranting right now. And I understand that. That's what I want to preface it with. That if you're a Mariners fan, you've waited almost 50 years for a World Series. You've had one playoff bid in the last 24 years, 23 years, whatever you want to call it. Okay? So I totally get every aspect of the frustration when, as you talked about earlier, Jorge Polanco essentially coming back for $5 million less is the big splash this offseason, assuming that stands pat, which it appears it will be. I also, in a strange way, if you want to call it strange in perspective, I kind of get what Jerry's saying. It's not like they were a last place team. They missed by one game. And so logic would say that a lot of guys had really bad years, that as long as your rotation's in place as it is, they didn't trade Luis Castillo, despite a lot of offers, as he mentioned, Jerry, in that call earlier this week, you're probably right there. So here's my final point on the final buzzer. You are all, anybody and everybody, from Jerry to the fan to the guys, preaching in front of T-Mobile Park. Everybody's invited. Everybody's entitled to their opinion on this team. Let's just see how it goes. If they miss the playoffs again, then understood. But everybody who's so up in arms in February, and I get it, I completely get it. What if they go to the playoffs? It's not like they had, they missed by 20 games last year. They missed by one game. Would you have liked to have seen a more definitive move to make that jump? Yeah, obviously. I'm not trying to say that. Let's just see how this goes. And let's call this what it is. It's a make or break year. So spring training next week. Let's go.
And the barometer will continue to be butts in seats, tickets sold, and what those TV ratings look like. And if those continue to go down, then we're going to know how the fans feel about what they've done in the offseason.
That's just it. Right. And that's your gauge. The results are the gauge. If you pass on both of those fronts with the relative inactivity you had, the big point being that you made the playoffs, if they are able to do that, for sure.
Shall we do this again next week?
I think so.
Hey, David Lee, why don't you take us home?
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.